Today, we're visiting a mountain in Japan that's so hallowed, so sacred, that you're actually forbidden from talking about what goes on there. So naturally, I'm going to talk about what goes on there.
Hey guys, Clyde here. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Weekly Weekend. This time I visited Mount Yudono, one of the three mountains of Dewa located in Yamagata prefecture. But before I talk about Mount Yudono, I want to talk just a little bit about the background and history of this trio of mountains. So put your thinking caps on. We're going to get our learn on today. Alright, let's hop into it.
The three mountains of Dewa, known in Japanese as Dewa Sanzan, are comprised of Mount Haguro, Mount Gassan, and Mount Yudono. Located in Yamagata prefecture, these three mountains, along with their shrines and temples, are considered holy to the Japanese religion of Shinto, and especially to practitioners of Shugendo, a sect of Buddhism that engages in mountain worship.
So, not to derail the topic too much, but it's worth pointing out that in Japan, mountains are kind of a big deal, especially when it comes to religion and folklore.
I mean, sure. It's easy to point to Mount Fuji and celebrate how iconic it is around the world, but the fact of the matter is that almost every single significant mountain in Japan has been adorned with a shrine at one point or another. I guess what I'm trying to say is that mountains are more than just pretty scenery in Japan. They're special places that oftentimes possess tremendous cultural value. Think of them as spiritual hotspots, brimming with history, lore, and tradition. Okay, so it's time to turn our attention to today's hike. So normally, Mount Yudono is meant to be the last stop in the Dewa series. The first two, Haguro and Gassan, are said to represent life and death, with Yudono supposedly symbolizing rebirth. So life, death, rebirth. Straightforward enough. That said, due to my schedule, I'm traveling to these places completely out of order. Just know that if you're wanting to visit the three temples, the intended order is Haguro, Gassan, and Yudono.
With that in mind, the kind of experience you're going to have at Mount Yudono is really going to depend on how you get there.
If you're wanting to follow the traditional path, a visit to Yudono is usually piggybacked onto the trek to Gassan, connected by trails between the two mountains. Although I've not done this trail myself, I've been told that it's a very moderate full-day hike with some steep slopes coming down the backside. My path was a little bit different, and definitely easier than a full day's hike. Because I've got a car, I ended up driving to the base station at Yudono. It's a lovely drive, and you'll pass through at least 15 tunnels before coming to a windy road that'll take you up. As you're arriving, the scene kind of speaks for itself. You eventually start to see a massive red torii gate peeking out through the trees, and in seconds, it's completely upon you. I think this is one of those times that pictures and video just don't do a scene justice. You really got to see it for yourself to know how massive the scale of the structure is. Despite being on a mountainside, the base station is pretty much anything you'd ever need for a full day's hike. There's a couple stores, public restrooms, maps, and even a bus stop that runs all the way up to the shrine. At the base of the torii gate, there's a basin to purify your hands and mouth before entering.
So while I was stopped here, I remember seeing a Japanese couple. There was a guy taking a picture of his girlfriend. So of course I walked in and I said, "Hey man, I'll take a picture of you guys." And while I was doing so, I asked how long it was from the base station up to the mountaintop. And what they told me was really interesting. Apparently there's a bus that runs the length of the path, but it's only like a 10-minute ride. You can actually just walk up. So if it's only a half an hour walk, I figured, why not hoof it?
Before heading up, I noticed a tiny path kind of creeping up the side of the mountain, and of course my curiosity got the better of me. Taking a quick look, I kind of climbed up into the trees and found a small shrine tucked away just a few minutes from the main road. If you're visiting here, this is definitely one brief stop that's worth a look. The road to the shrine isn't itself bad at all. It's a gradual incline with several things to see along the way. There's a waterfall, a small shrine or two, even a bridge that looks out over the valley. All things being equal, I definitely recommend that you opt to walk instead of taking the bus. Even on a hot day, it's worth it for the sights alone. Still, the main reason people come to Mount Yudono today is to experience what lies at the summit. That said, when you arrive at the final stretch of the path, you begin to see those big ominous no photography signs posted everywhere. And even though the statues around here are fair game, it's pretty clear that this is as far as you're allowed to snap photography.
So I've read online that the monks here are really serious about their privacy. They've even apparently gone so far as to tell people that they are forbidden from talking about this kind of place. And if you do a quick search online, you'll find the details are kind of scarce. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't like spoilers, but for the sake of a complete review, I've got to spill the beans.
So, for all intents and purposes, this was the last scene I was able to capture. I'll do my best to describe what lies beyond it. From the stone path, you come over a small hill, a quick slope that slants back down into the valley. A few minutes of walking, and you come to an outdoor building of sorts. On the right side, there's a covered area where you'll find shoes just neatly placed all over the ground. And this is where you'll take off yours.
So once you've taken off your socks and shoes, you'll get a quick blessing, pay a couple hundred yen, and you'll enter the shrine. From here on out, you're barefoot, and you're walking a narrow, long path that comes to a massive opening.
The first thing you'll probably notice is the massive red rock spewing boiling water from it. The next thing you'll notice is that you're going to have to climb it. That's right, you're actually climbing up a massive red stone boulder. Keep in mind that parts of it are pretty slippery. Perhaps even more dangerous, some of the water coming off of it is really hot. Couple it with the fact that this boulder's been basking in the hot sun all day, and if you're not careful, you could get singed just walking around on it.
All that in mind, your reward for scaling the boulder and climbing the rock is a breathtaking view. There's a spot at the end where it opens back up and you get a huge sweeping view of the valley, and it's just one of those spots where you want to stop and just take it all in.
Of all the things that the monks would like to keep secret here, of all the neat little artifacts and bits of lore that can be found on Mount Yudono, I think that this spot, this little lookout onto the valley, is the one thing worth protecting from the world. When you're standing there, just do yourself a favor and let yourself feel the moment. Just take a second to relax and soak it all in. Maybe you take a deep breath, or you feel the water running between your toes. Maybe you can hear the sounds of monks in the distance as they work. Just whatever you do, don't let this moment slip by you. Take a step back and experience the beauty and the tranquility of this place. And do your best to truly understand what makes this place special to so many people. I think if you do that, you'll have seen the real Mount Yudono.
So that's it. That's a little bit of what you can expect to find in Mount Yudono. Hopefully you learned a little bit about the 3 Mountains of Dewa, and if nothing else, you got a little inspiration for a trip if you're ever in the area. That said, that's only one of the 3 Mountains of Dewa down. There's 2 more to go. Next weekend I'm heading back to Yamagata prefecture to visit Aguro, only this time I'll be staying on the mountain, with some monks, doing monk things. I don't know what to expect there, but it's going to be an interesting trip. Until then guys, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you mash that subscribe button and leave any questions or comments down below. Look forward to hearing from you guys, and safe travels yourselves. See you on the next weekly weekend.